it's a bit of a secret that, that John and team at dLocal were really kind of like the first PSP to do the stablecoin sandwich. We were solving those treasury problems in Africa for them 4 years ago, as he said. And remember, when I mentioned PSPs generally started, hey, I've got a treasury problem, can stablecoin solve it? Answer is yes, and you can do it at scale. Then they quickly, as John mentioned, realized actually there's a bunch of other use cases around payouts, pay-ins. Let's start expanding that, and this is really where this partnership is going.
Welcome to a bonus episode of Tokenized, the show focused on stablecoins and the institutional adoption of real-world assets. I have the pleasure of being joined by Chris Harmse, Chief Business Officer and co-founder of BVNK, and John O'Brien, Chief Revenue Officer at dLocal, to discuss some incredible news. And yes, you may remember both of these gentlemen from the last news show we just did. So this story comes from everywhere. You managed to break the internet. BVNK and dLocal are going to partner to power faster global payouts with stablecoins. I could tell you a little bit about the partnership, but John, why don't you take it away with this partnership, what you guys are doing at dLocal, and what customers you're serving?
Sure. Thanks, Simon. So, dLocal, for folks who don't know, is an enterprise-focused business that operates solely in emerging markets. So we help merchants and fintech businesses collect and disperse funds into over 40 emerging markets today. And we're super excited about the deeper collaboration we're kicking off with Chris and the rest of the team at BVNK. We've been working with the guys to help us with real world problems, to be frank about it, in our markets, which I don't know how much you know about emerging markets, Simon, or how much you cover it on the podcast here. It's a lot of challenges every day when you work with those markets, and you're particularly reliant on having good partners and dealing with good people. And we started our relationship there with Chris and the team, with solving really specific issues in Africa for us, with liquidating positions that we had there to make sure we weren't building up stock, etc. We could pay our merchants in time. And of course, that was all done through stablecoin, and was at over the course of the last, we started it almost 4 years, almost 4 years ago now, Chris. I think it was probably early 2022 when we started doing it, and those volumes are now really, really significant as it relates to the treasury side of our business. Over the course of the last year, myself and Akobo, who's one of the co-founders of dLocal and our prior CEO, had been discussing with Chris and the founding team other ways to collaborate that we saw could be beneficial to BVNK and to ourselves as well, particularly given BVNK's expertise in the stablecoin space and the off-ramp capabilities that dLocal has as well, not just in Latin America, but also across Africa, the Middle East, and Southeast Asia. So given, I think, the high level of utilization of stablecoins in emerging markets, and the fact that our relationship was more born out of solving like a real tangible challenge and problem for us as well, it felt very natural for us to expand the relationship with Chris and the team, and see if we can't go and solve more front-end problems together as well. And we're very excited to be building with the team there, and I think we can help each other a lot in the spaces we have done over the course of the last 3 years, and offer a pretty differentiated experience for people who are looking for stablecoin and off-ramp solutions in emerging markets.
Chris, obviously you've been working with a lot of folks. Our news show, you talked about kind of going from treasury to payouts being the next big step. How much are the payouts use cases scaling? I know you did a partnership with WorldPay recently, and what is it about that use case that you think applies in this case particular?
And I'd like to call out, it's a bit of a secret that, that John and team at dLocal were really kind of like the first PSP to do the stablecoin sandwich. We were solving those treasury problems in Africa for them 4 years ago, as he said. And remember, when I mentioned PSPs generally started, hey, I've got a treasury problem, can stablecoin solve it? Answer is yes, and you can do it at scale. Then they quickly, as John mentioned, realized actually there's a bunch of other use cases around payouts, pay-ins. Let's start expanding that, and this is really where this partnership is going. It's now expanding into a dual partnership where, we're starting to provide stablecoin pay-ins and payouts to, dLocal and their underlying merchants, but equally we integrating dLocal's payouts capability in these emerging markets into our layer one payments platform, and really able to terminate stablecoin payouts in local currency and vice versa. So I think we're seeing a lot of excitement around payouts in stablecoins, but also payouts in stablecoins that land in local bank accounts, that land in mobile wallets, and that's where dLocal's great network across emerging markets comes into play.
Yeah, people always ask me about the last mile problem, John, but that's one that's probably very familiar to you. Talk to me about like the economics of using the stablecoin sandwich versus kind of going more traditional routes for the person that's making the payout. So if you guys are settling into an end bank account via stablecoins, who's this benefiting and how?
Yeah, primarily the cases that we see today, Simon, are where people want to fund us with stablecoins for speed of funding, and to avoid some of these other cases with pre-funding that I think we discussed on the prior podcast, where you're doing Swift wires, etc., waiting 2 or 3 days to clear and pay things out. So we saw those use cases very similar, I think, to what Chris is seeing within his own portfolio with payroll and employer of record companies and also remittance companies. The cost is, I think, one benefit to it from a treasury or payout perspective. I know when we were doing this for Mark at Zeps and helping him pay us in USDC. For him, it's more about speed. It's the cost efficiencies are there, but it's more about speed and optionality and being able to do that over a weekend, and us not having to open up a line for him that he's got to pay for, etc. as well. In terms of the economics, Simon, just depends on what necessarily is going to be happening as it relates to the off ramp. So in some cases, as Chris knows, you'll be paying straight through with either USDT or USDC, where we're doing the off ramp and paying into local currency, depending on the nature of the business and the size. Like all FX business, it's related to the size of the trades that people are going to be doing, to what the economics typically look like. But already in our markets, these are very low cost infrastructure settlements through PIX and mobile money and other things. The FX, of course, just depends on the nature of the market and how things are operated there. For remittances, as the example I gave, many of those are regulated in our markets there, and governments offer rebates for receiving currency, etc. So it definitely varies in our markets, but I think the infrastructure cost has been taken down by the likes of BVNK and other companies coming along and providing the infrastructure to merchants to be able to do the funding to companies like ours as well, and take that conversion and not necessarily have to handle cryptocurrency themselves, right?
Yeah, that complexity of handling the crypto is something that a lot of folks really get concerned about, Chris. Do you see that changing, or do you think that's going to be the case for the foreseeable?
Look, I think, with solutions like ours and our layer one, programmable payments platform, we take care of all of that abstraction and complication of the blockchain away, and then, add in one or two, licenses, and then you've got a full stack suite where a merchant or a PSP can just arrive with a bank account and an API integration and get access to these new payment rails. So I think people are definitely leaning into it. We've seen all the momentum in the market more broadly, and I think everyone's more comfortable. As John mentioned recently, everyone's more comfortable to have the stablecoin conversation, or, can you provide this sort of funding method? Are you able to pay out? Yeah. And if you can take care of them, in an enterprise ready infrastructure stack, then, I think, we're only going to see it grow from here.
All right. Well, is there anything I didn't ask you that I should have, gentlemen?
For me, I think, what to expect going forward. I think, for us, it's more corridor expansion. We're doing more integrations. And I think crucially more production scale use cases. These use cases are getting to scale. It's moving trillions of dollars of TPV. So yeah, we're just excited about, being useful and getting some of these, amazing use cases we've been talking about, to scale and into the hands of more merchants and PSPs.
Well, I learned something today, John. I didn't realize you were one of the pioneers of the stablecoin sandwich in production. So thank you so much for doing that work. I think a lot of folks now will be very grateful that you were there doing that stuff 4 years ago and kind of building from that base. John, of course, if people want to learn more about dLocal, where do they go to do that?
Yeah, just at dLocal.com. Folks can find me as well on LinkedIn. I'm not too active, Simon, as I mentioned on the last podcast, on social media generally. But yeah, always happy to talk fintech and particularly crypto and stablecoins with our customers. And as we mentioned earlier, we're super focused on getting that merchant feedback and building these real world use cases. And it's a lot of fun for our team as well to actually go from having something that was a bit more back office and treasury to it being like a tangible product thing that people can build, get excited about, and actually solve real world use cases too. And it's cool to do it with Chris and people that we know and have worked with for a long time as well. So team is super excited about that and happy to take a new offering to market.
And Chris, you and BVNK?
Just bvnk.com, and you can find me at Chris Harmse on LinkedIn.
You'll find me at SY Taylor everywhere, at sardine.ai and fintechbrainfood.com. And you'll find more of this podcast if you go ahead and subscribe and share it with your friends if you're enjoying what we're doing. And we'll see you soon.